Get out. Those were my mother's exact words, her voice sharp as broken glass cutting through the air of our family dining room. My father didn't even look up from his plate. He just nodded like it was an agreement long decided behind closed doors. And then my sister Claire, sitting across from me with that smug little smirk she wore whenever life handed her another gift, said nothing. He didn't need to. The gloating in her eyes was loud enough. I stared at them all, not believing this was real. But the words kept coming. "You're the failure," my father finally said, his voice deep and steady. "We carried you long enough. You're just a burden we won't carry anymore." The table felt like it tilted, the room spinning with every syllable. They told me the family business, the one I had poured nights, weekends, and every ounce of my youth into, was being signed over to Claire. Along with the new home they bought outside the city. Me. I was told I would get nothing. No share, no safety net, no acknowledgement that I ever mattered. Just the label of failure stamped on my skin like a brand. I wanted to scream. I wanted to claw at the walls and ask what I had done so horribly wrong. But instead I heard myself whisper, "Why her?" My mother's face hardened, her perfect pearls glinting under the chandelier. "Because Claire doesn't disappoint us. She knows how to make something of herself. You've always been a mistake we kept too long." Her words hit me harder than any slap could. I pushed back my chair. My legs felt numb, my heart hollow. As I grabbed my bag, I glanced once at my sister. She tilted her head, a sly smile curling her lips. Like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. And that was it. The door shut behind me, the lock clicking like a coffin ceiling. "My name is Emily. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever been treated like a stranger in your own family?" I drove away that night with tears blurring the headlights, my phone buzzing with messages I didn't answer. Not apologies, of course, just instructions to never come back. For 2 years I kept that promise. I built a small life on the edges of town, scraping together what I could. Every day was survival, but every night was freedom. No more poisoned dinners. No more being told I was less. And then one afternoon, as the sun dipped low against the horizon, I saw it. A black SUV slowing down at the edge of my gravel driveway. The window rolled down. My sister's face, older but still smug, peering out. My phone rang seconds later. Her voice on the other end wasn't smug. It was screaming. "You need to help me now." And that was the first time I smiled in years. Her voice cracked through the phone like lightning, shrill and frantic. "Emily, you need to help me. Please, I don't know who else to call." I almost laughed. 2 years of silence. 2 years of being erased, discarded, cut out like a tumor. And now she was calling me. But instead of laughing, I stayed quiet. Silence is heavier than words, and I let her squirm in it. "Emily," she said again, her tone breaking, her voice ragged with something that sounded like desperation. I finally whispered, "Why me? Don't you have mom and dad? Or the business? Or that shiny new house they gave you?" The pause on the line was long enough that I could hear her shallow breaths. Then she snapped, "They won't answer. They won't even pick up. You're the only one who will. Only one who will." The irony almost made me choke. I stepped out onto my porch, the autumn wind lifting my hair, phone pressed to my ear. The black SUV still idled at the end of my drive, her outline a shadow behind tinted glass. "What happened, Claire?" I asked finally, my voice steady. Her answer came out fast, like a confession she'd been holding too long. "The business is collapsing. Everything's gone. The house, they're foreclosing on it. I don't know what to do, Emily, I'm drowning." Her voice cracked into sobs. For a moment, the weight of what she said sank in. I remembered the way she smirked at that dinner table when they cut me out. I remembered her voice the last time she spoke to me. "Guess it's for the best." And now here she was, sobbing into the phone while parked outside my home. I should have told her to leave. I should have told her I owed her nothing. But instead I let her twist in the silence. Finally I said, "Claire, do you remember that night? The night you all sat me down and told me I was nothing? Do you remember what Mom said?" I heard her swallow. "Emily, please." "She called me a mistake," I said softly, almost like I was reminding her of a bedtime story. She said I was a burden they wouldn't carry anymore. Do you remember what you did? You smirked. Her sobs grew louder, choked, messy. I'm not smirking now, she whispered. No, I said, my lips curving into the first real smile I'd felt in years. Now you're begging. She banged on the steering wheel. I could hear it through the phone. I didn't know. I didn't know they'd do this. I thought they'd always take care of me. I leaned against the railing of my porch, the wood cool under my palm. And you thought they'd never take care of me. You were right about that. Her voice lowered, fragile as glass. So will you help me? I looked at her car at the end of my driveway. And I let the question hang in the air like a blade, gleaming, dangerous. Because in that moment I realized, this wasn't just about helping. This was about deciding whether or not she deserved to drown. I stayed on the porch, phone warm against my ear, letting Claire's desperation soak into me like sunlight after years of darkness. She used to look at me like I was beneath her, like I'd never measure up. And now her voice trembled, raw and pleading. I finally said, all right, get out of the car. There was a pause. Then the SUV door opened and she stepped out, her heels crunching against the gravel of my drive. The sight of her almost knocked the breath out of me. The last time I saw Claire, she was polished, glowing, perfectly styled in designer clothes. The woman standing in front of me now was cracked porcelain. Her hair was unwashed, her blouse wrinkled, makeup smeared like she'd been crying for hours. She looked human. Emily, she whispered, clutching the phone still pressed to her ear. Please don't turn me away. I have nothing left. I tilted my head. Nothing? Not the business? Not the house? What happened? Her face contorted. It all collapsed. Mom and Dad, they put everything in my name, and then when it went under, they blamed me. They said I ruined everything. Her voice broke. They don't even answer my calls anymore. I went to the house last week and Mom shut the blinds when she saw me. I let that sink in. The golden child abandoned. Now you know what it feels like, I said quietly. Her tears spilled, streaking down her cheeks. Emily, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. Thought I was special. I thought they'd never throw me away. But they did. And I don't have anyone else. Please. I'm begging you. Hearing her beg was a drug I never knew I needed. But I wasn't ready to let her off easy. Claire, I said, stepping down from the porch, closing the space between us. Do you remember the last time I asked you for help? When I begged you to stand up for me at that dinner table? Do you remember what you said? Her mouth quivered. He knew. You said, guess it's for the best. She broke then, falling to her knees in my driveway, gravel biting into her skin. Her sobs echoed across the quiet evening air. I crouched down, close enough to see the mascara smeared under her eyes. Close enough to smell the perfume clinging to her like a memory of the life she lost. Do you really want my help? I whispered. She nodded, desperate, clutching my hand like it was a lifeline. Then you'll do exactly as I say. Her eyes widened. Anything. I smiled. Good. Because if she wanted salvation, she would have to crawl for it. And I intended to watch her crawl all the way down. I let her kneel there in the gravel until her breathing slowed, until the sobs turned into shallow, shaky gasps. The sight of Claire, perfect, untouchable Claire, reduced to rubble in my driveway was almost surreal. 2 years ago she smirked while I was cast out. Now she was begging to be let in. I pulled my hand back slowly, letting her fingers grasp at the air where mine had been. Stand up, I said. She scrambled to her feet, brushing at her blouse like the wrinkles could somehow vanish, like she could stitch together her old self by fixing the fabric. Inside, I said, turning toward my house. She followed without hesitation. My home was modest. 2 bedrooms, peeling paint on the walls, mismatched furniture I'd picked up secondhand. But it was mine. Every lamp, every chair, every cup in the cupboard was earned by me. And as Claire stepped inside, her eyes darted around, the judgment flickering across her face even through her misery. That flicker didn't go unnoticed. You can wipe that look off your face, I said sharply. It's not a mansion. But unlike yours, it's still mine. She flinched, then nodded quickly. I wasn't. You were. I poured myself a glass of water, took a slow sip, and leaned against the counter while she stood awkwardly in the doorway. "Tell me everything," I said finally. And she did. She talked fast, voice breaking in places. The business tanked after she mismanaged a major deal. The house was bought on credit they couldn't sustain. When the walls started closing in, my parents turned on her. Their golden daughter became the scapegoat overnight. "They told me I ruined their legacy," she whispered, eyes swollen red. "That I destroyed everything they built. And then they cut me off. Just like they cut you." The words hung heavy between us. I stared at her, watching the irony dawn in her eyes. For the first time she saw what I had seen all along. We were both disposable. "Now you know what family means to them," I said coldly. Her lips trembled. "Emily, I was wrong. About everything. About you. I thought they'd always love me more. I thought you were a mistake." I cut in, my voice low. Her silence was the answer. I set the empty glass on the counter with a sharp clink. "You want my help? Fine. But it's not going to be free." Her brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I stepped closer, my shadow stretching across her, "if you want me to save you, you're going to have to earn it. You're going to feel every ounce of what I felt when you watched me walk out that door." Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. "What do you want me to do?" I leaned in, close enough that my whisper cut through her like a blade. "First, you're going to get down on your knees again. And this time, you're going to beg like you mean it." And as her knees hit the floor, I felt years of silence finally cracking into power. Her knees hit the hardwood floor with a dull thud, and for a second she hesitated. Her chin lifted slightly, eyes glassy with pride still clinging to the edges. But I stood over her, arms crossed. Waiting. "Say it," I whispered. Her lips parted, trembling. "Please, Emily, help me." "Not enough," I said flatly. "You begged better for a puppy when we were kids. Try again." Tears spilled down her cheeks, mascara bleeding black rivers. She clasped her hands together like a sinner at church. "Emily, please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I have no one else. Please don't let me drown." That was better. The words cracked in her throat, torn from something deeper. I crouched so we were eye level, her face wrecked and ruined while mine remained calm. "Do you understand how it felt?" I asked softly. "To stand in that dining room while they told me I was nothing? To hear you laugh when they shoved me out? Do you understand what you did to me?" Her sobs came harder now, shoulders shaking. "Yes. I know I was cruel. I thought I was untouchable. I was wrong. I see it now. I swear, Emily, I'd take it all back if I could." I studied her, searching for even a flicker of insincerity. But all I saw was a shattered woman choking on the ashes of her golden life. "Good," I said finally, standing up. "Then you'll start with the dishes." Her head jerked up, confused. "What?" I gestured toward the sink, piled with plates from a week of my late shifts and exhaustion. "You want to stay here? You want my help? You earn it. Start with the dishes." For a moment I thought she'd refuse. Her jaw tightened, the old pride flashing for a second. But then slowly she rose to her feet and walked to the sink. She turned on the faucet, rolled up her sleeves and began to scrub. I leaned against the counter, watching her hands shake as she worked. Watching the woman who once looked down on my life now washing the very dishes I ate from. It was almost poetic. When she finished, she turned back to me, wiping her wet hands on her blouse. Her voice was small. "Tao what?" I smiled faintly. "Now you cook dinner. You said you'd do anything, right?" Her mouth opened like she might protest, but then she nodded. "Right." As she rummaged through my pantry, I saw the weight in her movements, the way her shoulders sagged. Every step, every stir of the spoon was another chip off the armor she'd worn her whole life. And as the smell of food filled my tiny kitchen, I realized something. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about rewriting the story. For once, I wasn't the mistake. For once, she was learning what it meant to be less. And I wasn't going to stop until every ounce of her pride was gone. The smell of pasta filled the kitchen, steam fogging the small window over the sink. Claire stood at the stove, stirring with a wooden spoon like she'd never cooked a meal in her life. Her blouse was stained with sauce, her mascara long since smudged away, her hair clinging in damp strands to her face. I sat at the table, arms folded, watching her. Every clumsy movement, every heavy sigh, it was all fuel. Salt, I said. She froze. What? Salt. It needs more. You can taste it, can't you? Her hand shook as she sprinkled it in. I leaned back in my chair. Funny, isn't it? All those dinners we ate as a family. You always laughing, sipping wine, talking about your plans while I sat there invisible. And now here you are, cooking for me. Her shoulders stiffened. She didn't turn around. When she finally set the plates down, her eyes avoided mine. I took a slow bite, letting the silence stretch until it snapped. It's awful, I said. Her head jerked up. I tried. Awful, I repeated, shoving the plate slightly away. But that's fine. You'll learn. That's the point, isn't it? Her lips trembled. For a moment I thought she'd scream, maybe throw the plate at the wall. But instead she sat down across from me and lowered her head. The pride was breaking. Finally. Emily, she whispered, her voice raw. How long are you going to make me do this? I leaned forward, my eyes narrowing. As long as it takes. Until I believe you're not the same woman who smirked while I was thrown away. Her eyes filled again, red and swollen. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. And then she said something that pierced through even my rage. I don't know who I am without them. The words hung in the air like smoke. I swallowed, a strange ache rising in my chest. For all the years she was favored, spoiled, placed on a pedestal, I had hated her. But now I saw the cracks. She had been built by them, shaped by their constant validation. Without it she was hollow. For a second I almost pitied her. But then I remembered the night she smirked at my pain. And the pity turned to steel. You'll find out, I said coldly. And you'll do it here on your knees if you have to. Her tears fell fast, dripping onto the table. She nodded, voice broken. Whatever it takes. Just don't turn me away. The power shifted fully then. I wasn't the outcast anymore. She was. And I realized, this wasn't just revenge. This was the rebirth of me. But what she didn't know yet was that I wasn't done. Not even close. Because before this was over, she wasn't just going to beg. She was going to confess. The night grew heavier, the only light in the kitchen the weak glow of the overhead bulb. Claire sat slumped at the table, shoulders hunched, her once pristine blouse ruined with sauce stains and tears. I circled her slowly, my footsteps echoing across the worn floorboards. Like a predator circling prey. You've washed my dishes, I said evenly. You've cooked for me. You've begged. But there's still one thing missing. She lifted her head, eyes hollow, lips trembling. What more do you want from me? I leaned close, my voice sharp as glass. The truth. Her breath caught. I told you. No, I snapped, slamming my hand on the table so hard the plates rattled. She flinched. Not about the business. Not about the house. About me. About what you did to me that night. I want to hear it. Every word. Out loud. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed, eyes darting like a trapped animal. You want my help? I said coldly. Then say it. Her hands gripped the table's edge until her knuckles turned white. And then slowly the words bled out. I betrayed you, she whispered. Louder. I betrayed you, she said again, voice cracking. I sat there and let them destroy you. I watched it happen. I didn't say a word because I wanted everything for myself. The admission hit the room like thunder. Keep going, I demanded. Tears spilled, her chest heaving. I thought if they gave me the business, the house, everything, I'd finally be worth something. I thought if they loved me more than you, then maybe I'd matter. So I let them hurt you. I smirked. Because I wanted to see you gone. I wanted you out of the way. Her voice broke completely then, collapsing into sobs so raw they scraped against my ears. And now I'm the one they've thrown away. And I deserve it. I deserve all of it. I stood there, the silence pressing heavy between us. Hearing her confess wasn't sweet the way I imagined. It wasn't triumph. It was something darker, heavier. Like standing over wreckage after a storm. You'd survived, but the landscape was forever changed. I crouched down, forcing her to meet my eyes. You're right. You do deserve it. Every ounce of this. Every tear. Every sleepless night. Her gaze flickered with something like relief. Relief at finally saying it out loud, at finally being stripped bare of the lies she'd wrapped herself in for years. You think I can forgive you now? I whispered. You think confession washes away the blood on your hands? She shook her head violently, tears flying. No. I just wanted you to know I see it now. I see what I did to you. And I'll carry that forever. I stood, looking down at her broken form. For the first time, I wasn't the shadow in her life. She was the shadow in mine. And tomorrow she would find out what justice really looks like. The morning sun slipped through the blinds, painting pale stripes across my living room floor. Claire hadn't slept. She sat curled on the couch like a ghost of herself, her eyes red, her shoulders slumped. I stood in the doorway watching her. For years I had been the one invisible in a family that paraded her like a prize. And now she was invisible in her own skin. It was almost too perfect. I walked into the room, slow, deliberate. She looked up, her voice rough. Emily, what happens now? I let the question hang in the air, heavy, suffocating. Then I sat across from her, leaning forward, my elbows on my knees. You want my help? I asked quietly. Yes. Her voice cracked. Please. I nodded. Then here's what you'll do. You'll march back to that business, to that house, to Mom and Dad, and you'll tell everyone exactly what you told me last night. Every ugly truth. Every betrayal. You'll admit you stole my place, that you smiled while I was destroyed. You'll strip yourself bare in front of them. Her eyes widened in horror. I can't. You can, I said sharply. Because that's the price. You wanted everything at my expense. Now you'll give it all back at yours. That's justice. Tears spilled down her cheeks again, her hands trembling. They'll hate me forever. They already do, I said coldly. This isn't about them forgiving you. This is about you owning what you did. Finally. For a long time she just sat there, breathing ragged, her silence an answer of its own. Then slowly she nodded. Hey, I'll do it. I leaned back, a strange calm washing over me. Good. And I meant it. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about rewriting history with the truth carved into it. Days later I got a call. It was my father's voice this time, venom laced with disbelief. Your sister, she ruined us. She stood in front of everyone and confessed. Said we destroyed you. Do you know what you've done to this family? I listened, quiet, letting him spit his rage into the phone. And when he finally paused for air, I said the words I had carried for 2 years. I didn't destroy this family. You did. I just survived it. And then I hung up. Claire never came back to my doorstep. She disappeared into the silence she had earned. Maybe she was trying to build something new out of the ruins. Maybe she was still crawling. But as for me, I finally felt free. Not because she broke, but because I no longer did. I wasn't the burden. I wasn't the mistake. I was the one who walked away and built something from nothing. And that was the justice I had waited for all along.